Have you ever been sitting in a movie theater or maybe at a dinner table, and suddenly the only sound you can focus on is the heavy breathing of the person next to you? For most people, it's just background noise, but for you, the volume feels like it's turned up to the max, completely hijacking your mind and pulling you out of the present moment. You look around, and everyone else nearby seems perfectly fine with it. And then that quiet, desperate frustration sets in. Why isn't anyone going to do something about this? At first, it's easy to blame yourself, to think you're just too irritable or that you simply need to learn how to relax. But that explanation doesn't quite land. Today, we're looking at the psychology and the main traits of people who hate specific noises, a neuropsychological reality known as misophonia. For most people, tuning out a repetitive sound is automatic, but for a mind with this sensitivity, everyday activities like having dinner with your family, interacting with coworkers, or even just watching an online video can quickly turn into actual torture. This isn't a personality flaw, it is a biologically based problem. Your nervous system processes auditory stimuli so intensely that if anyone else heard those sounds at that exact magnitude, they would be just as deeply disturbed. This brings us to the first main trait, the nature of your emotional response. When confronted with a trigger sound, your primary emotion is rarely just mild anxiety. It is a visceral wave of disgust or sharp, sudden anger. The sound isn't just annoying, it is interpreted by the brain as an invasion. Your body reacts as if it's under attack, sparking an overwhelming urge to make the sound stop immediately, requiring a massive amount of effort just to contain your reaction. Because of this constant intensity, a second trait emerges, a silent state of hypervigilance. A mind that hates certain sounds is always anticipating the invasion. You might catch yourself tense and on guard before you even sit down at the dinner table, just waiting for that inevitable moment the distressing sound begins. This continuous need to scan the environment for potential triggers creates a profound exhaustion. You start planning escape routes, or you rely heavily on earplugs, headphones, and white noise just to exist in spaces where you know these sounds will happen. And the truth is, there is absolutely nothing wrong with avoiding these triggers or blocking them out to protect your peace. But perhaps the heaviest trait of this mind is the cognitive loop it gets trapped in. Misophonia doesn't just affect your hearing, it creates incredibly strong, intense thoughts. In the heat of the moment, your mind tries to make sense of its own pain, often convincing you that the other person is making that noise on purpose, just to provoke or harm you. Or, even more cruelly, your mind turns against you, whispering that there's something fundamentally broken about your tolerance. But that simply isn't true. People rarely realize how loud they're breathing or chewing, and the crushing impact it has on your nervous system is not your fault. The secret to navigating this isn't forcing yourself to sit through the sounds that make you angry, because forced exposure often just revs you up and makes the anger worse. Instead, it's about learning to unstick yourself from those thoughts and tolerate the distressing emotion. It's discovering that sometimes paying attention to something else in the environment, chewing a piece of gum, holding an ice cube, or smelling a strong scent can shock your nervous system just enough to create a new sensation and break the spell of anger. The goal isn't to magically stop hearing the noise, but to train your mind to return to baseline after the impact. Understanding this is about replacing self-judgment with context. It is recognizing that your brain isn't failing, it is just processing the world at a volume most people will never have to endure.